Good evening, everybody. How are we doing? So welcome to the June 28th
episode of Brimfield Matters.
Matters, right? Yeah.
We are your hosts.
Yep. Go ahead.
Mike Doyle.
Paul McCarthy. We're previous select people that we thought it good to kind of come on board and try to explain some of the goings on in local town government and answer questions, and also kind of give an idea of what some of the actions that happen in town meeting and in the regular meetings is all about. Kind of explain a little bit where it came from and what all gets accomplished at these on these agenda.
Right.
All right.
With some commentary.
With some commentary thrown in there a little bit. So with that, do you want? Let's see. Let me get my.
Oh yeah.
Let me get my agenda up here. All right. So this was the agenda from. Just Monday.
From Monday.
It's just from Monday. And so you can't really see it very well, so I'm just going to go to the very top of it real quick and just make it a little bit bigger. So this is the first agenda, first meeting after the election. So you'll notice at the very top there, it's important to kind of notice that there is a section on reorganization. And so you want to try to explain a little bit what that's about?
Yeah, so every time that there is an election, someone leaves the board and somebody comes on, and actually even if they get reappointed or reelected, they're supposed to reorganize. And actually, I don't believe they did mid-year when they did the special election last year.
Right.
But that being what it is, you are supposed to do a reorganization. And that's the officers, and in Brimfield you've got a chairman and a vice chair. Some years they've put in a secretary.
One year.
Yeah. 1 year.
We can explain why they did that, I think, at some point, if anybody wants to bring it up. I thought it was curious that we haven't had one since.
Yeah.
But it was strategery, I believe.
I believe so.
Yes. Anyway, so yeah, the reorganization, it's an important part of things. It happens usually at the next scheduled meeting after the election. There was one year where it was attempted to try to have it 2 days after or whatever.
Right.
And it was just a lot of poppycock that was going on at the time. A lot of rustling of the paperwork. But anyways, So the reorganization went down, and again, this is all on videotape, so it's on demand. If you go through the website of brimfield.org.
Brimfield.ma.
Brimfieldma.org.
Yes.
If you go to the cable, you can kind of get onto the on-demand. And we should probably give a tutorial on how to do that one of these days. It'd be easy enough to do on this. So I'll try to remember next time to have that so that we can kind of go through exactly how to find those on demand. Yeah, we can, actually. You want to do it right now?
Yeah, might as well.
All right, let me...
It is that easy.
We have thunder coming. Do you hear the thunder?
I do.
All right. So
thunder.
All right. So I'm going to try to do it. I don't know how this is actually going to project real well, but and if you can see, oh yeah, you can see my my cursor. So if you go to, I think it's departments.
Departments.
Go down to cable, right? You see where it says public access TV, and then if you go down to, you have watch live, and then you have video on demand. If you hit video on demand, it'll load up and action. So.
And for some reason, this meeting always comes up, and I don't know if they can do something to reset that to the most.
Gotcha.
To the most recent meeting.
If you notice down at the bottom here, you can see the Board of Selectmen June 26th meeting. So, and then you can watch it right from there. And this it'll load it up. I'll hit the pause button. And there is your new Board of Selectmen right there.
Your fiscal year 2024 Board of Selectmen.
There you go.
From left to right, that would be Alan Berkovisi, Martin Kelly, Paul Vandal, Anthony Soto, and George Adams.
I knew you'd remember.
Yeah.
All right. So
senior moment.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Congratulations! You just had a birthday, right?
I did.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So that we'll give you a little bit of leeway with that. All right. So the reorganization ended up being. So what that is basically, you nominate somebody, or even yourself for that matter, and then for a position of the officers. So again, chairman or vice chair, chairperson or vice chair, and then somebody else has to second it, and then there's a vote amongst the board.
And discussion, potentially.
And discussion, yeah, and then they basically ended up with, well, I would watch it because it's interesting to see how it plays out. But Mr. Kelly's the chair, and Mr. Adams is the vice chair.
There were some what could be thought-provoking questions from other members of the select board,
right,
during this process.
Yep. Yeah, I thought I thought it would be a little bit interesting, and because you just don't know what people are thinking. That's all.
Yeah.
So that happened. All right. So anyhow, it was reorganized, and now you've got your new board members and new structure. All right.
So before we move on, can I just do one personal shout out?
You may.
My daughter Audrey, who used to be the videographer for us,
right,
wanted me to say something if she posted something, so she waved. So.
Okay.
Hi, Audrey.
She launched us.
She launched us
to be able to do this and pushed us out of the nest to do it on our own.
Right.
And I thought it was, so she's, we have to thank her for
she was a good sport
pushing us down this road.
Yes.
All right. So first thing they did, you can see the agenda there. The agreement between Palmer Munson, Ware, and Brimfield for the animal control services, and so this was kind of in the making for the last year.
Over a year.
So yeah, something like that.
This actually came about because we had issues with our with the animal control officer. Again, I don't think everything was fair with that, but that being as it may, and we couldn't find anybody, so we were without an animal control officer, and Chief Cuss actually was the one who started really working on this intermunicipal agreement with Munson, Palmer, Ware, and
right. And
it's been going on, and unfortunately, things with this board don't seem to move quickly.
Right.
And we were basically without an animal control officer, I believe, for all of last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I think you're right.
Now, one question that I had, which I had spoken with Chief Cuss about as we were getting this started, was the animal inspector.
Right.
The barn inspector position had been always tied to the animal control officer. And then that's required by the state. So last year we used a guy from Wales who, for the first time since I've had animals, didn't show up to my barn to do an inspection.
Oh.
So.
Okay, well, that's not cool.
No, but so I had my hand raised, and as per usual, it was ignored.
I saw that.
Yeah. But I guess that's going to be something that, the cost savings is good, but if we're still paying and actually it's not really a cost savings, I think we still have to pay money, and we're giving
the car thing was interesting. I didn't hear about that last time. I don't remember seeing that or hearing that.
It was a possibility. Yeah.
That they would share that.
I kind of thought that it would be
like
in lieu of money.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm going to give here's a key to our car for this week, here's a key to our car for this week.
Well, no, I thought that Brimfield would be the one to hand the car over and say, we'll take care of the car, but we won't pay anything towards salaries.
Oh.
I thought that's how it was.
I didn't know it was going to... Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know either. I'm not sure. Yeah. But, all right, so that was interesting anyways. So I don't know if it's very clear. I guess the Board of Health will be doing the barn inspector, and so that they've got to nominate that. So if anybody's interested in that, because there's nobody in the position right now, you said, right?
I don't know if that's a 1-year term or a 3-year term for this guy in Wales. He was he's in the position.
So he's doing
just didn't check my barn.
I
don't know about anybody else.
All right.
If anybody else has a barn and you either got an inspection done or didn't. It'd be fun to know.
Yeah, let us know for sure. All right, so we've got the next thing was. So this is an interesting one. So they had the treasurer collector interview questions, and they had 15 questions, I think is what they ended up saying, that they all were distributed and so that they could review them or whatnot. And then they were going to use those questions in the interview process for the next agenda item.
Right.
So I thought it was interesting because they literally just read the questions and they didn't have the personality part of things to kind of expand on it or to take an individual's answers and kind of, again, expand on it and kind of find out who they are and maybe go in a little bit on a tangent. When you interview people, you don't have to use the exact same questions for
Right.
you just don't.
Yeah, some of the questions don't apply.
Right, and so they kept saying, okay, well, we'll have to answer. I'm going to answer this question because I've asked that to the other person. It's like, and if it's already been answered, you don't need to ask the same damn question over and
Right.
over and over again. That's absolutely ludicrous. It's a waste of time, and it's to me it'd be embarrassing to ask it a second or third time, and as an interviewee, I would be a little bit embarrassed that they are asking me the same thing.
Right.
And so I don't know. I didn't understand that whatsoever. But anyways, should we go
Yeah.
through a little bit?
So I'll say that this is the first time I've ever seen an interview like this done. I'm not going to say it's wrong, but
Right.
it was interesting. This is a treasure collector. It's an $80,000 a year plus salary.
Right.
This person, whoever got elected or appointed or hired, would be touching $30 million of tax dollars a year.
Right.
They'll collect it coming in, and then they also pay everything going out.
Right.
And this was they issued 15 minutes
Right.
per
person.
person for an interview
Right.
for this position that is fairly significant
Right.
in town. And the other thing that we were on the board when I believe we had to have at least two, maybe two replacements through our term.
Well, let's see. So the two that went in there.
Sharon and Dion.
Oh, Sharon. Yeah, before
Yeah.
then. Right. So, yeah. So the position, right, exactly.
And each time we had, I believe it was two members of the select board on the selection committee, and
And the treasurer.
members of the finance
yeah.
committee,
Right.
and the
Accountant.
accountant, and Ms. Hilker, Sue Hilker, showed up for them as well.
Right.
And she helped out. She may have at some points been an assistant, through COVID.
Right.
So she may have been
I think
working
she
there.
was working in
You know,
there
but-
for a little bit.
But again, trying to get a representative group who have information. I had to laugh. Two different select board members, said that we use Vadar software.
Batter.
Which it's Vadar.
Right.
And a question like that, it could potentially have been something different because it was mispronounced.
Yeah.
Luckily the final interviewee actually corrected them and said, no,
Right.
it's Vadar.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and it's unfortunate because it is a very well-known program in that genre of office of treasurer collectors. I mean, that's just what a lot of them use. So you ought to have the jargon a little bit. You should have already been talking with these past
Yeah.
treasury collectors about the systems and what was going on, what was happening. So you kind of, even just by default, you hear it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that it shouldn't be new. And if you're getting these questions beforehand, vet out your questions. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you can't pronounce something that's on your question, or you don't understand the logic of the question, at the meeting is not when you should have that corrected.
Yeah.
You know, that should have been done like just to make sure that the spelling and the pronunciation of the interviewee, their name, you should have an understanding of their resume, and if they work someplace, you should know where that is and be able to. Anyhow, you should do your own homework as well to kind of be on top of that. Now I know it was relatively short as far as the new board coming in, but still, there's no excuses not to be prepared for something as important as this.
Yeah.
And honestly, I do think that I agree with you. There should have been an ad hoc committee put together, go through these, get it down to 2, discuss the 2, and then select one. You know what I mean? And have not necessarily have the interviews in an open meeting.
And it said it's not wrong. Michelle says it was not wrong, just odd, because those after the first one could adjust their answers based on what was removed.
Right.
So that's that. Oh, I'm trying to read, and she posted another one, so I got confused.
It bumped it up.
Again, this getting old stuff is.
Yeah, it is. It's technology. You'll get it. You'll get
Okay.
it. We'll get you one of those jitterbug.
You can come back and whisper everything to me.
So I have to disagree. I don't think that they should be done this way in an open meeting. I think that you do this just because you might want to delve into something. You might want to go on a tent. You might want to do things, and you just want to not make them feel uncomfortable. I don't know. I wouldn't have done it this way. I don't think. Anyhow, I wouldn't have.
Right. Yeah. And every interview is open, but it didn't have to be at an open meeting.
Yes.
So anybody is allowed to come in and watch, and it should have been discussed when this ad hoc committee would have met.
I don't know if that needs to be an open meeting. I don't think so. Not if it's not a because if you have two people from the board.
I guess that gets sketchy, and I would
2 people from the board, the accountant, maybe the Treasury Collector's Office being present,
and FinCom members.
FinCom, yeah. I mean, I would see that as more of a.
It doesn't have to be a posted meeting, but because it's a public position, I feel that you don't have to post it, but you should let people know we're going to be interviewing 4 candidates at the town hall on Monday afternoon.
See, I would think that more like a negotiation type thing where that could be private.
The interview can't be in an executive session.
Right, I wouldn't do but I wouldn't call it an executive session. But I wouldn't necessarily have called it an open meeting.
Publicize it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess
Either way.
But I would have checked in with my assistant and I would have checked in with legal to make sure one way or the other. And then you have it down to 2 people, and then you have that decision made later. But yeah, I guess I'd have to think about it.
Yeah. So
and really, the group should think about it and have kind of participated in the decision making.
yeah. So Michelle also writes, as a prior Board of Selectmen member, we knew the systems used by treasurer collectors. We had many fluent conversations with that team. Seemed this board was removed from their employees.
Well, I would say that they definitely don't understand the system.
Right.
There's no doubt. I mean, and I certainly didn't understand it as much as you did, coming from your background with FinCom. There's no way I understood it as well. But you still have to understand it enough.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be able to have a value.
You can talk to them about stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know if we need to talk about each one.
No.
I don't think that would be. Anyways.
Yeah.
So,
you should watch.
Yeah, we would encourage everybody to watch it. It was interesting. One individual,
Mr. Gelb.
Mr. Gelb, either elected not.
Yeah, it wasn't really said.
Didn't really. Yeah, but he wasn't present at the meeting. I think he may have withdrawn his application. So, anyhow, at the end of it, they offered a position.
Yep, and I got to give Mr. Adams props.
Mm-hmm.
That he amended the vote or the motion to include after prior checks and reference checks.
Contingent,
and all that.
yeah. So there was an acceptance of I believe it was Madeline Goodrich as for the position.
Right.
with the contingency. Basically, they want to follow up on references and do a little bit more. So
Right.
that's going to have to be sussed out a little bit, just a little bit more. But
Right. And of course, salary wasn't discussed. So
right,
Um,
right.
yeah, and as Michelle states, when we hired, the ad hoc committee also discussed the money with the parameters given by the direction of the entire board.
Right.
So there was discussion at the interview about that, so that they'd have some idea,
Right.
leaving the room, what was.
Kind of what was expected. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you don't want to sink the boat.
Yeah.
Having never even broached the subject, that'd be crazy.
And it is something. I hope that any treasurer collector, especially, would do a little bit of homework and see what was voted on at the town meeting, where they would see the total potential budget.
Right.
But it is also good to say there's a range, and we may not give you the full amount.
Yeah.
And what
based
we're expecting.
on X, Y, and Z from your
Right.
resume, your education. I mean, I thought it was good that they talked about education and what was needed to be certified, because that is something that they didn't on the last go round, to be honest, and wouldn't even allow it to be discussed and broached in an open meeting. And so I thought that was good that they at least acknowledge that there's a good need, that there's a need for some sort of an understanding of what education they had. Go ahead.
So I'm going to jump ahead.
All right, what should I do?
We just got a good comment.
Good segue?
Yeah.
All right.
So the last item on the agenda.
All right, let me go up. Oh, on the,
Yeah.
let's see.
It's going to be. Yeah.
Very
so
last?
annual town meeting comments from the select board members.
Yeah.
Mr. Miller states that he was told by George Adams, based on Robert's rules, that he handled the tie vote on Board of Selectmen's salary incorrectly as far as the Board of Selectmen's salary. I guess one thing that I would say to that would be, and Mr. Miller knows better than anyone, that I know at least, the town meeting isn't run by Robert's rules. The town meeting is run by town meeting minutes. Oh, there we go. So Mike says that Mike told George that we don't use Robert's rules, that we use town meeting time, and that I asked town council what to do, and he told me I should ask for another vote, which is what happened.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, and that's very intricate. And
Yeah.
I never really understood the differences, and since town meeting was run using town meeting time, should all of our meetings, interim meetings, all of our department and committee and board meetings also be run that way?
I think our bylaws say, I almost am positive that our bylaws say Robert's rules.
Okay, when I was chair, one of the first things that I did was specify that I'm going to run the meeting using Robert's rules, just because I wasn't sure, and I wanted to just make clear that those are the rules that I was going on.
I gotcha. All right, I'll I know I've got it, but I'll look that up.
You can look that up.
I will look that up a little bit later. Should we go back up to the top?
Yeah.
All right. Let me go back over here.
Okay.
All right. And so let's see.
So then we go into appointments on many different items. And this was largely fairly straightforward and ordinary and what you'd expect.
Right. It was. Yeah. It wasn't anything. It got mixed up a little bit, a couple lines. You'll see it mixed up a little bit, but I think that's just because they transposed a few lines, like the rec committee, and then I think they named the trail committee, and so that was cleared up really quickly. These are pretty straightforward.
The one thing that I will say, it's interesting because I don't know if you can pull this up. I'm making Paul sweat tonight.
I know. I've never done so much work.
I know.
What am I looking up?
We're going on the fly here, and actually I got to figure out which one it is. I believe it was the June 12th posting. And nope, that wasn't it. um, June 5th meeting, and the minutes aren't up here yet for that. But one thing that I found interesting was, where the heck is it? Town hall. Yeah. So ZBA on the June 5th meeting, it has that the ZBA appointment of Chester Jamboro is for 1-year term. I find that to be kind of interesting, having a 1-year term on the ZBA. But then if you go back to this one, so to me, that agenda and what they voted on, they didn't say anything beyond Zoning Board of Appeals, Chester Jambora.
Right.
But then you go back to the minutes of this past meeting, and you have Zoning Board of Appeals associate member Jeff Fitzgerald as a 1-year term.
Right.
And then Zoning Board of Appeals John Fagerstrom 3-year term.
Right.
To me, the vote taken for Chester Jambora was not an associate member, it was a 1-year full member.
Full member, right.
Which brings them up to 4 members.
Right. Right.
On a 3-member board.
On a 3-member board, yeah.
So I would have thought that they might have clarified that, but and I mean, I think they meant to say associate member, seeing how it is a 1-year term, but that's not what was voted on, and that's not what was written.
Right. So
I think there should be clarification.
So maybe what we could do. So whose responsibility is to clarify that?
I would
the select board probably.
Yeah.
But now that it's in place, the town clerk should look into it as well, because they kind of keep track of this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Sullivan did. He seemed to, anyways. That he was like he seemed to be the guy that said, "Oh, okay, this is an open position. This is a 3-year. This is a whatever." He seemed to have a lot of that, but maybe he didn't have to.
Right.
Because they are appointed positions by the select board,
And
so it should be the select board office kind of keeping track of them for sure. Maybe with oversight. That would be my opinion.
Yep. So that was my one question there, and then I will say that the only real curveball was with the building commissioner.
This was interesting. The building commissioner, or the building zoning officer, building inspector, however you want to term, give the term to the position. That was interesting because where was the other? Wasn't there another name? Oh, it wasn't on the.
It was
on the was it on the revised one?
It was on the revised. Yeah.
I may have put this together prematurely, but I thought I got this off of the thing today.
Yeah, Jeffrey Farinella.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So there were.
So Mr. Cantel submitted his letter, I believe, on Friday, and he got added late on Friday, and then there was another version of this of the agenda done on Monday afternoon, which included this other applicant, which seems a little bit, this is a big item. We're now, potentially going after a third employee without anything. My understanding is Mr. Cantel doesn't have any items in, he doesn't have any complaints, any written complaints. There's been no, boy, another senior moment.
Yeah.
The executive sessions about him.
Right.
There hasn't been any formal action against this current employee, and with 4 hours notice, they were hoping to blindside him and have somebody else come in.
Right.
And it just didn't seem prudent to do, and same old MO as has gone down the past 2 years with Officer Olsta and Chief Cuss.
Right. Yeah. So what was interesting is that as soon as this item came up, the chair recused himself.
Yes.
and we don't know why, and it doesn't really matter. If they felt the need to recuse, they should recuse.
Yes. Yeah. And recusing oneself of an item, you don't have to specify why, and it is, much better to err on the side of caution when it comes to recusing.
100%. And so that prompted the next statement that came from the board was a movement to table. Right. And so there was a move or a discussion. It wasn't even a move to table. I don't think he made a movement. I think it was not a motion, but a request to table, because, and this is I'm going to paraphrase, but a resident came to the select board, this particular member, and said that they had complaints against the zoning officer, and they needed to investigate that. And that's what it was. And so it was interesting because the rest of the board said, well, this was just put on. Why wouldn't it, that it could have been taken off?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If there was something going on and nobody else knew anything about all of this. And then there was a motion by, I think it was Mr. Bercovici even.
No, I believe it was Mr. Soto.
Is he? Okay. So there was some discussion.
Mr. Bercovici might have seconded it.
I think he did. There was a motion anyhow to say, well, okay, there was a motion to reappoint Mr. Cantel. And so now there's a motion on the table. And so that was discussed a little bit. It was seconded, and then they had to take a vote. And I believe it was Mr. Bercovici was a yes, Mr. Vandal was a yes, and Mr. Soto was a yes, and Mr. Adams, I think he abstained. He didn't say no, but he abstained. Right. And so I'm not sure why it was that exact way, but that's the way it went down. So I don't know what was going on, but something was going on.
Yes.
This is a play. And I don't really know why, but it didn't come off as being smooth. It didn't come off as being prepared, or anything like that. Yeah. It was a little, that was, these sketch.
I really feel that these so-called, and there very well may be complaints, but this is what happened with the previous two employees that I mentioned before, and also the ACO for that matter, where there was no evidence of anything, and they before there was no any evidence presented, they made a move to get rid of this person.
Right.
Basically, guilt. You're guilty before proven guilty.
Right.
Where I think it's just a sad precedent.
I think this one backfired on that play, if you ask me.
Well, I think it worked correctly.
I think it I think it worked correctly as well. I thought it undid kind of what the motion in play was supposed to do. Because the reality is that should have never been stated. They should have said, "Could I request that this not be on the agenda item?" And honestly, the vice chair could change the agenda and just say, "We're going to table this." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just do it for that matter. I don't think you have to vote to table an agenda item. Do you? You know what I mean? Can a chair or vice chair say, "We don't want to talk about this on this one. We're going to put it"? Do you have to take a vote to do that?
I feel like you might have to.
I mean, I can't even remember that kind of thing happening where it was controversial. But maybe you do need to take a vote. Maybe you do.
Yeah.
But you should, but I'm sorry.
No.
Also, I don't think stating I received complaints about somebody should be stated in an open meeting, because that's like saying, okay, I got complaints about somebody. I don't have anything necessary. Is it in writing?
Yeah.
Does it have any validity? I mean, do you say that? Or do you just say, I'm going to look into it and look into it?
Yeah, there are matters that have been brought to the attention of the board or board members that we should look into before we continue.
Right.
But again, I strongly believe in innocence until proven guilty. And, as of today, at least Monday, there was nothing in anybody's hands that said there was any assumption of any
Right.
reason for guilt,
Right.
except hearsay.
Right.
So with that, you appoint him, you have an investigation, you can put him on leave, you can do whatever needs to be done after the fact.
Right.
But as of now, you've got no reason to not reappoint someone.
Right. This reminds me of the discussion that was had with the previous chief. When a complaint came in right before the appointment, and then the complaint got taken away, it was a chess game. Well, it was checkers.
Yeah.
It wasn't right. It wasn't right then.
Right.
And whatever's happening here wasn't.
But the good news is,
but it worked out.
This, with this new election, the new composition of the board, it worked out. On the behalf of employees.
In the town. Hopefully,
yeah. I mean,
I agree.
I think in the past 2 years, at the start of both years, there's been reason for our employees to fear for their jobs.
Right.
And I hope this set a new precedent for our employees that make them understand or make them hopeful that this board will support our town employees.
Right. No, the other thing that I thought was really good was the discussion amongst the members was audible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like people wanted to say something and they got stymied. They said what was on their mind. I thought it was probably the most I've heard Mr. Berkovisi talk, and certainly like hear him talk. Like he had a voice. You know what I mean? Like I thought that was outstanding because I think that means a lot.
Yes.
That means a whole lot. Mr. Soto, I mean, he's been talking. He certainly sounds defensive, and I think that's just a carryover. I think that's just the way it is. And then Mr. Vandal, I think, he's just coming on, but he's been there before, so that's going to really help him a lot. I think to get the idea of how things are working with this group pretty quickly.
Right.
For sure.
Right. So I want to go back. There's some more discussion. Michelle had some points on the ZBA appointments.
All right, I'll put that on so people know what we're talking about. Go ahead.
And Michelle, and this actually goes back to the 1 year appointment of Mr. Jambora, where Michelle says that associate members have 1 year, I believe, and she's correct. You do all associate positions, I believe, are 1 year positions.
Gotcha.
So there is that. But then her next comment is someone finishing off Vandal's position, or is he staying on? He's staying on, but that, so there could have been that thought, but actually the appointment of Mr. Jambora happened before the election, so it...
Did it?
Yeah, June 6th, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so, but, the other, and I think it's just semantics.
Yeah.
But they've had this problem before where no one sees the issue on the agenda, nobody says something in the motion.
Right.
So it comes off as being technically wrong.
Right.
And I think it's easily enough explained that it's a 1 year position. We meant it to be an associate.
They should clarify it.
There should be a clarification.
Yeah, 100%. They should clarify it. The next meeting, they should just put it as an agenda item. This is exactly the way it is, and spell it out. Honestly, it's happened before, and I think it's happened with that board before. But when you get the associates and it gets mixed like that, and you just throw around reappointments. Before they didn't even always say how many years it was, and then it would get really confusing. But they just need to clarify it. That's all. It's not a big deal. It's just clerical. Get it done. Make sure everybody's on the same page, and that the town report, next time has it right. And the town website needs to be updated. We already talked about that last meeting. It's abysmal. So this hopefully will help to kind of push that along as well.
Right. And one of the things that we did when we were on the board with Michelle was set up protocol that we weren't going to vote on any new appointments until the last meeting in June. which was the first meeting of the new board,
Right.
so that they would have a chance to vote on the people that
Right.
they'd be working with.
And that's exactly the reason why.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So everybody knows what they're voting on.
Right. And it gives people the opportunity, because especially back then, I think we were successful in moving things forward a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and getting people to actually write a letter saying we want to be reappointed.
Right.
Uh,
Right. And we also asked that they approach the board first, and that the board has given us feedback. Like, the board enthusiastically recommends this appointment.
Right.
We used to. I remember asking for that, or getting that anyhow, whether we asked for it or not. I mean, that if there are a couple of people and the board had somebody that they wanted more, whatever, then that appointment would be made according to what the board wanted, that particular board or committee wanted too. So it's good to get their input for these. So anyway,
Right. So Michelle says they could have tabled to get more information on the second person. They could not have done their research on him prior, since there was no time.
right. Right.
And the complaint could be one resident who did not get their way with the inspector. So again, it's called due process.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah, but I think the board in their discussion was saying, we don't need it. He's done the job. He's doing the job.
Right.
And they haven't seen any issues. They don't have any issues on file.
Right.
So there's no reason not to reappoint him.
Right.
If that changes with, whenever these complaints come forward, they can then change it.
Right.
But until that time, due process says he's doing his job.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, good job. All right. Let's see. Let me go down to the bottom here, because it'll make it a little bit easier. Because I don't think the bottom was changed, so I'll use my other one because I have it a little bit bigger type.
Here we've got the continued new business. I mean, there isn't a whole lot. Cintas.
Yeah, that started with COVID.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, yeah, you could buy that from Amazon. Oh, yeah, you can get that from Amazon. And I get that, and he's right. However, I mean,
So for those that aren't there,
right?
Cintas comes in and they we rent the rugs at town hall from them.
Mm-hmm.
So every 2 weeks they come in and take the rugs, put new ones down, and they also do the hand sanitizer.
Sanitizer, yeah, other things around the building in the annex.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much. I don't think they do anything with the town hall at this point. There's nothing over there.
They used to do the rugs there too. I think there was just the one rug in front of it.
But I'm not sure that they still do anything. And it's a carryover from COVID, just to kind of make sure that there was a professional resource to get this stuff done. Because the reality was, people were remote. Some people were coming in. Who's going to clean that when other things are going on in town? Certainly, highway, fire. I mean, everybody else is busy as well, and so that's where that company came. So yeah, it's easy to do it on Amazon. And if Mr. Soto wanted to clean the rugs and take the rugs out and restock the sanitizer and paper towels or whatever goes along with the contract, then he could very well volunteer and do it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, no one's going to do it. It's not going to get done. And it's less than $1,000. It was $500. Less than $1,000 a year. You'll never get somebody else to do it that often and be on top of it.
And it was one of those things. We did have our own rugs, and they were dirty. They were dingy.
Right.
They start to slide when they get older.
Right.
If there's, I think we had tape on them so that the lips didn't
curl.
curl.
Yep.
Now renting them, if it starts curling, you call Cintas up and say,
Right.
we need new rugs.
Right.
And it looks professional. It's just
does.
a nice, one more thing that putting lipstick on that pig,
Right.
at least clean rugs. When people came in, they didn't see it, especially the first year we did it. I don't think we had the floors done yet. So,
Right.
it was junky looking tiles.
I mean, it's in a professional building setting. Again, it's kind of a no-brainer. You got to do it. There's no one else you're going to add this job to there. We can put it onto the executive assistant to select board, I mean,
Yeah.
or the clerk. It's just not going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of these next things are like the boiler maintenance award. They're talking about who takes care of the boilers, and usually you get a bid from the local companies, and it's a matter of just dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that there's a contract for someone to come in and fix things if you need it. The great thing is that honestly, the companies that are around here, they're very responsive, and even if you had to go outside the contract, you could probably get someone to help you out. Well, if something happened.
Yeah, and it was funny. Paul Vandal was asking about the fuel and boiler maintenance because he's saying this seems way too low.
Right.
I wouldn't do it for this.
$125 an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
So
on emergency, yeah. I mean, it seems like.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's a good deal. Good deals, I should say. The various roadway materials was long and tedious.
And I remember this from last year as well.
Yeah, and so if you're watching this on demand, you can fast forward. I wish I had the exact time frame.
Yeah.
But they talked about pea stone, gravel, sand.
Yeah.
They talked about how much per cubic yard, how much per ton, whatever it was, and they went through each one. And this is something that the highway usually comes and says, here's what we're going to go with. We went lowest bid. These are the companies that we're doing. And it should have just been kind of done summarily.
Yeah, and you can do that summarily. It's good that it's all read.
Yeah.
So that it's in the public record. But the same thing could have happened by saying, I'll make a motion to approve the materials and cost of materials as written in the spreadsheet, which will be amended to the minutes.
Right. Yeah.
So that it's all there.
Public record, yeah.
And it's done with just that one sentence.
Yeah. Because it was a little bit long, and
yeah.
But get it done, and you can learn how much it is for a ton of gravel.
That's right.
All right. There are a couple things that like people are using the town hall. The library wanted it for a couple of things.
June 28th at 2:00, so we missed it already.
Oh yeah.
But July 24th in a month at 10:30 a.m.
Maggie the Clown
will be at the town hall.
Yep. The Historic Commission requesting the purchase of a town flag, and I thought this was an American flag. I didn't realize it was that custom made flag from several years ago. So
yeah, I think they probably, my opinion, I'm giving that a lot tonight.
Yeah.
Is that they should put that out as a historical commission, fundraiser. And at $300, I don't know how many people will want their own. But I'd be interested if we can get a volume discount for buying 10 of them. For $50.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea where it is. Who's got it?
There's only one copy of it, and that's in the Hall of Flags at the state.
So they would have to take that down and make a copy of it, right? Is that the way it would work?
Yeah, I want to say there may possibly be a vector, or I guess a raster image of it somewhere.
Okay, all right.
They might have it digitized, and they'd have to.
I think I've seen a picture of it once.
Yeah,
way back.
It has a good history to it.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't really know for sure, but I want to say it was hand drawn by a student.
Yeah, either
and voted on at town meeting or something.
That's what I remember.
And it would be it's a neat thing to have. And
yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say about that is if they were thinking about that, they should have just put that on the town warrant.
Yeah, but
if
for
they
$300.
But yeah, I know,
$50.
but it's just again, I don't know what they were going to do from the maintenance.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
They also requested the approval of $1,500 from the town hall expense for the purchase of boxes, archival boxes. Now, does this have anything to do with the grant that they got? Right? That they were going to do some archiving, but now we need boxes to kind of put everything in, or if this was going to happen no matter what. I wasn't exactly clear. And this should have been on there.
This, I think, probably could have been on, at least boost the historic commission budget up.
Yeah, 'cause-
$1,500 for this.
I mean, I think they just probably forgot. Is
Yeah.
what it come down to. And
Yeah, and this kind of falls. You're kind of falling into the basket of we'll do a 5% increase for the schools at an extra $300,000.
Yeah.
But let's draw our focus on the historical commission wanting $1,800.
I know, but it comes right off the top out of the maintenance.
Yeah,
And you know what I mean. And I'm gonna tell you, we may need that maintenance
need the
money.
maintenance.
That maintenance
Yeah.
money has to be stretched a long way between now and next summer. So, all right. Okay, so now we got the building committee proposing a short-term municipal office solution.
right.
All right.
So this shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody that these buildings are not good. I think we've said that enough times on this show.
Right.
I think everybody in town has heard that these buildings are not anything to want to be in, live in, work in, visit.
Right.
And the sad reality is that every time that we've tried to do something, we, it fails on town meeting floor.
Right.
So now, with the same information that we've had for 5 years, this board wants to move forward with a solution, which I'm happy for. I mean, we do need to get out of that building, but I think setting an expectation that we might be out of the building in October is just totally unrealistic.
It is hard. Yeah, and I have to say that I misunderstood at the beginning of it. I misunderstood the shoring up of the buildings. I was worried that they were going to put money into the buildings, like just to kind of get just to limp along a little bit. And so, and that was clarified to me that they weren't. It was the opinion of the sitting building committee that the annex would not necessarily be the best place to put town money and reinvest money into it. And so, so they did clarify that to me.
Right.
Which made me feel better. But I do agree with you that nothing will be easily done between now and October.
Right. And actually, I had a conversation with Mr. Egan from the building committee.
Mm-hmm.
That was also very informative. And I was wrong for the first time, I think, ever.
June, what's the date? What's the
That's
time?
right.
Let me write this down.
Yeah.
Take a selfie.
So
This happened.
So this happened. No, I asked him why they couldn't just move over to the town hall and just put him in there temporarily, and he said that he thought about it. They thought about it and decided against it because if the likely scenario is we're gonna fix the town hall up, and if that's the case, then they would be moving from the annex to the town hall, and then they'd still have to move out of the town hall
Somewhere,
anyway.
right.
So, and that makes perfect sense.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
Which just stinks because that would be a nice place to store them.
Right.
So,
So
and maybe they have to do that temporarily if that October timeframe is hard. A red line in the sand.
right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's the logistics is hard. I mean, it seems like it ought to be easy. You get a couple office building, those rental contractor type buildings. But then you got to find a place to put them. You got to move everything out of that building to make it accessible. We certainly don't want to start renting pods again.
Right.
You could buy a couple of pods this time around, buy some nice ones, and then sell them later. Even if it's 50 cents on the dollar, you'll still do better than renting them. The renting thing was a fiasco. And so, yeah, there's a lot that needs to be done. I don't know how I don't know.
Yeah.
Logistic-wise, it's going to be a little bit tough. They need to have a real good plan. Like this is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and make sure that you don't do stage 1 without having an idea where it's going.
Right.
That's
the
problem I have.
To have an open-ended, we're going to put temporary buildings up anywhere in town.
Right.
Without a plan and without the buy-in from the residents that these are a 2-year plan, 3-year plan, and we're going to work full speed on this project, and we need to know that it's going to pass,
Right.
because, we're moving out of our existing buildings.
Right. And maybe there are other buildings in town that could be rented.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And used even temporarily. So there are some things that need to be looked into.
Yeah. And the thought of what was discussed at this meeting as I want to say the best potential that they had.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can say that
Okay.
was putting the temporary structure down at the highway barn, or
Right.
near the highway barn.
They seem to allude to that.
Yeah, I would suggest that between the proximity to wetlands, all of the infrastructure that's there, and the infrastructure meaning the buses would have to be moved somewhere else. All the drivers, there'd have to be a lot of discussion about the sand and all the
Parking.
vehicles.
Yeah.
And parking for everybody.
Right.
You would be having a public building that's meant for the public
Right.
in a highway staging area.
Right. And then that's assuming it all leaves in April when baseball starts again. And you know what I mean? But there's lacrosse. They have soccer there. I mean, there's a lot
I was kind of thinking that it'd be on the other side
of what
in the parking
and
lot
where
area.
the buses are. But
Yeah.
But the
Is that
buses.
where
The buses
parking is?
yeah. So the buses go to the side. They kind of that front part between the buses and the highway
Oh,
is parent
we never
parking.
played. We never. Yeah,
Well.
we
so,
have horses.
So there you go. Enough said. Yeah, because so there are logistic things that so they need to talk to rec, and just talk about rec a little bit because just to make sure because there are lots of moving parts over there and a lot of things that could be a cluster.
Yeah, I mean we've got, depending on the sewage, we've had issues with the public safety which are now resolved, but is that
How much
suitable?
more,
and
right?
And moving all these people, that's going to impact that. Running water. I mean a small matter, but still a matter.
Right.
We just spent $30,000 plus or minus probably on paving that parking lot. After the new project,
Right.
and now we're going to dig it up.
Yeah.
Part of my asset management hat is
Yeah.
you look at all these underground utilities and you don't dig up new pavement.
No. Nope.
Mr. Miller is asking, they're saying we already put 15,000 into shoring up I believe that's the annex, and he doesn't understand that the current building is not workable. We're just going by what the engineering report says and has said for quite a while.
Right.
And that's the best we can do. Although a good thing is, a good response to that is, we had this engineer come in and it was, the former building committee wanted to bring this guy back in. If we're talking about many $100,000, change now, it might be worth another $5,000 or $10,000 to get a second opinion.
Right.
And
Right, because who is right now, who's making these decisions? Is it just, and I don't mean just as being derogatory, but is it just the building committee, the sitting?
Yeah, and the one engineer that has done this evaluation twice now.
Right.
And I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm not saying that there's, it's probably throwing, good money on bad.
Right.
Or bad money on good.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But, but to get a second opinion, if you're going to be doing something serious, if you need surgery, you go to two surgeons to get a second opinion.
Right.
If we're going to move people out of all of our town buildings, both of our town buildings, and put up, temporary ones and start talking about a multi-million-dollar project, it might be worth the $10,000 for a second opinion.
Yeah, and they might be able to say logistically, this is what you ought to do to get there. Like,
Yeah.
don't do that because it doesn't make sense, you know. And so and these are people that have been through it, you know. Usually,
Well-
you know, some of them. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
ask the people that have been through it. I guess is my point. You know, and get that.
Yeah.
From a
And-
different perspective, that might say, that won't work. You know what I
Right.
mean? As good as that sounds, and this is why. And so, yeah, I think there are a lot of resources out there that they should meet with, to be honest, before we start cardboard boxing down to some sort of a office trailer.
Yeah. So, you know, and I am of the personal opinion that the annex is not safe either.
Right.
And you know, there are plenty of
Totally
people who
agree.
disagree with me.
No, I agree with that.
But you know, there are people who don't. And you know, the town hall roof is supposed to be fixed before winter, is what I'm getting word of. So that's good. And I guess it's worried about storing records there until it's fixed.
The town hall roof?
Yeah, I got word that it was a town hall. I'd never heard of that.
I didn't hear that.
I've never heard that one, but
I would have.
I
I
do
would
know
have
that
expected
there
it
are
to
some.
be in, like, if you're gonna have a $50,000 maintenance. I mean, would that be a cap? I mean, where would that money be coming from?
So that, you know, there was. I did see that in the report. I didn't
Okay.
sense the, you know, collapse before winter type harshness that I've heard about the annex many times.
Right.
But, you know, there was one, I think it was one, maybe two or three beams up in the attic of the old town hall that did split, and there was some really good
Shoring up. Yeah.
shoring up
Yeah.
done.
Yep. I saw that.
And I would imagine that that's all that's required for these as well. And if that's, as long as that's the case, you know, I would think that could probably come in 50
So
grand.
is that what they're talking about? The internal structure of the roof, not the roof. Like,
I
I mean, the
believe
roof
so.
should have been done during the tornado. I would imagine it got re-roofed, re-taught.
Did it?
Would it have?
I don't know. I want to say that roof is slate. I don't think
So it didn't get damaged. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I might be wrong on that too, but it's been a while since I stared at the roof.
So you think most of it's internal is what they're talking about, structural things
Yes.
from the inside. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but if that is the case, I would imagine that, you know, that could be done fairly easily, fairly inexpensively. You know, fairly inexpensively with the asterisk that it is a town building, so it
Yeah.
has to be, you know, it's probably going to surpass the 50 grand.
Oh yeah,
I
would say so.
You know, because of prevailing wages and all that.
Right. Right.
So,
All right. Well, maybe we beat that one down a little bit.
and then actually an interesting thought that we also discussed with a former OPM in town for the town was the idea of, if there needs to be immediate new space created for the annex,
Right.
you know, we would have to go out to bid for any building that could possibly hold the town hall. But we might be able to get a good short-term lease, you know, short to mid-term lease from St. Christopher's, a Catholic church,
Right.
which has an accessible building, many office-type spaces that isn't being used in the rectory,
Right.
that could potentially house everybody in the annex,
Right.
you know, and it
That's parking.
has parking.
You have to work that all out, of course, but
Right.
you know, let's face it, the right days of the week, you know, you should
Yeah.
be able to. But
You know, it's right down the road. It wouldn't
so
be.
It could.
And it would still
could.
be a logistical nightmare, and I'm not sure we could get that done by October. But,
Right.
you know,
It'd probably be less of a logistical nightmare than trying to orchestrate
yeah,
office trailers and figure out how many, and then having. Well, you're still gonna need storage. I think you're
Yeah.
still gonna need storage units of some sort. But yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting. You know, again, people like to think outside of the box, right? That was
Yeah.
a big saying last
so
year.
we heard.
You know, and community is community, and so I don't know if they would want to do it anyways, to be honest, but it might be worth reaching out, putting out, and just see if there are any town buildings or privately owned buildings in town that could that might be a viable option for such storage and for such movement of the
for
offices.
short term.
For short term.
I mean, again, going out of town center is going to be difficult on a lot of people. You know,
Well, let me ask you this: short term. Define it. I mean, the reality is you're going to get them into a place, and you're going to hope it's short term. 3 years. Let's just say it's 2 to 3 years.
So
Realistically.
I would realistically say that before much more effort is expended on this,
Right.
you know, it cannot be this building committee, which I think has, you know, I'm one of them who feels suspect about this board. You know, it's not the 11 members that we had before that were from every walk of this town.
Right.
You know, it's a board that was pretty much handpicked by the previous select board.
Right.
And, you know, I don't feel comfortable with them. You know,
Right.
I could change my mind and, you know, they brought some good information to me, and, you know, I do agree that it can't be the town hall as short-term solution.
Right.
I do agree that there should be a long-term solution.
Mm-hmm.
But as Michelle also states, the residents were clear with the vote for just a safety complex versus all town buildings. They wanted to pay less tax. Now that we are a few years in, it's time to bring a dollar figure for town hall
100%.
and offices. And I think, so going
That's it.
back to my answer,
Mm-hmm.
I think before another second is spent with this building committee and this select board making decisions to spend ARPA funds, we need to have public hearings. You know, the townspeople need to have a voice,
Right.
even if nobody shows up to these meetings,
Right.
for transparency and for the protection of these boards. You know, they need to be able to say, we brought it to the people.
Right.
We wanted your input. Nobody showed up. I think there will be plenty of people showing up to this, including everybody in building committee 1.0.
And they need to start it now. I mean, they need
And
to start that, like, these are the discussions, and control it, because you don't want everybody saying, well, I think we should do this. It's not anybody's forum. You know, give your opinion, but don't assert the conversation. But take in all that information and go with it. And eventually some hard decisions are going to have to be made. And a lot of people are going to be disappointed, angry, felt like they've been disenfranchised, whatever. But that's part of it, unfortunately. You can't you just want to get the majority, most people, and do the right thing for the long term. You want to be able to be proud that you make a decision based on what information you have at hand.
Yeah.
So you got to start them.
And I would suggest that be, you know, public meetings
Mm-hmm.
with the building committee 2.0,
Yep.
with the select board, and, you know, I think the select board should have a public hearing on it, and I think the planning board should also have a public hearing on it.
Right.
And the planning board understands a lot more than the select board
Mm-hmm.
and probably the building committee about parking, you know, change of use,
Right.
you know, impact of use.
Yep.
You know, all these things are happening that, you know, I don't think about.
Right. Yeah, the logistics, the facts, the things that have to get done to
Yeah.
make it go from point A to point B.
When Dave Killian has been on the planning board for 42 years, 43 years now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he brings the knowledge of if something new comes onto Route 20, this and this are going to domino,
Right.
you know, and we need that type of knowledge to make sure that
I
that
think
whatever
so.
happens is correct.
Agree. I think you're absolutely right.
Hey, thanks.
Nice job.
So that makes up for my one.
You
Whatever.
had a couple of misses up there.
Ah.
That's okay. The annual town meeting comments from the select board. I thought it was interesting that they said they didn't have any comments. Basically, I mean, they didn't really talk about much about anything. Did he even bring up the clickers, or was that?
They,
I know we just talked about it a little bit. But did
Somebody-
they bring up?
I forget if that was this meeting or last
I
meeting.
don't think it was this meeting. I think they went, yeah, okay, we don't have anything to say. I don't think.
No, I
What
think
did they talk about?
I think they did talk about it, and they thanked George and everybody else. who
Oh
was
yeah,
involved.
yeah. That may be right. Okay.
Mr. Miller says that he was not invited to Monday's meeting to discuss the counters.
Yeah, probably all right.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
but
you get.
here on Brimfield Matters, we will thank Mike Miller, Deb Fagerstrom for bringing this up, and George for taking it on afterwards.
Yep.
And that was good.
All right. I think that's all
Oh.
we had to do. Go ahead.
Mike Miller said that Marty said he was still looking into issues with the clickers.
Yeah. I mean, he's got. So anybody can drop that little note. You know what I mean? The reality is, they're being used at the state level. They're being used in other municipalities. They've been vetted. They've been tested. That's just sour. That's just sour. I don't. Whatever. You know what? Actually, let me say something. One thing that I do want to say, that during that building committee, their discussion, I got to ask a question,
right.
and
Yes.
I want to say, so I raised my hand, and I got to say, Mr. Vandal, he did. I saw him say, like, I think that somebody wants to say something, whatever, and the chair, he said I could ask one question, and so, listen, you know what? It's like opening the floodgates, right? I was just like, this has been 18 months in the making to get a question up there. And, basically it was kind of what we've already discussed. So it doesn't really matter what question I asked, but the fact that they let me get up and actually go to the microphone was huge. Now, that may be the only time this year. It might be a precedent. I don't know.
Might be a precedent.
I don't know. I'm very
You
excited.
can be hopeful that this was all a precedent, and
I gotta say, I'm really thankful because now I'll go to more meetings because I'm thinking I'm gonna get.
Well,
I might be able to raise my hand.
I think
I'm
I
not
raised
sure.
my hand twice and didn't get.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah. So, Michelle also says that they said at the meeting that the senior center at the church was to be a short-term solution. I don't remember hearing that. It could have happened.
Is that during the discussion of the building committee? Huh. I did not.
Yeah.
I don't remember hearing. You know what? We could ask. Well, we could just watch it. And
We could watch it.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Eva,
I would hate to have. I mean, what would happen
Eva
to the
would
senior
have been
center?
like right on that. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that would have perked her ears up right quick if that were the case. But
Yeah. We've still got an active senior center that has a bunch of events that, I don't think the building department would like to have, senior exercise time impact their builders'
right.
ability to come in and get.
Yeah, I wonder what that was. So there's got to be at least one more year on that lease.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember if it was a 3 or a
I-
5 year. I want to say it was 3.
I think legally it has to be 3. It can't be more than 3.
Okay. Yeah.
With 1 or 2 year extensions.
Yeah.
So it might have been a total of 5, but
Okay.
2 of them
Alright.
were.
So we may be on our last year for that. So,
Yeah.
well, that may have to go up a bit too, I suppose. I don't
Yeah.
know what they could do with that, but yeah, I'll have to listen to it again because I didn't. It may have been when I was picking up my water. I kicked over my water jug. Well, it may be on the clip. I don't even know if it's on the video. To be honest, it might be on the video, but I had to clean it up, and so I got distracted a little bit. That was my own fault, being an idiot. But it happens. All right. A couple things I wanted to show.
Look at you.
Yeah, look at that. I got some ads here. So, there at the public library in Brimfield has these museum passes. I saw these on Facebook, so I figured I'd just throw them up there. So if you want to go to the Dr. Seuss Museum and the Constitution and some of the state parks, and so there are a few things at Old Sturbridge Village and the Butterfly Sanctuary and whatnot. You can get discounted tickets through the through the library. So
free or discounted. I think, yeah, most of them say free.
two free, yeah. So each one has its own little thing. So and another thing that's coming up is there's a bike ride, basically to raise money for the land trust, and so that's it looks like it starts at the winery and then ends up in, where does it end up? I think it
should be both start and end at the same place.
It ends up at Rapscallion Brewery. I think they're a sponsor at the after party.
Okay.
So anyhow, there's what day is that? Let's see if I could even see it. Sunday, September 17th. So this will be up. We'll put this up a few more times.
Yep.
So there's a way to help out the land trust. And the next thing I had, this was I couldn't get. It wasn't a picture on. It's a post on Facebook, so it's really. And I'd have to make like a screenshot, make a JPEG, and then do all that. So I just copied and pasted. This is what the Senior Center has up, that the July newsletter is available now.
And if you did put up what was written, it'd be 1,000 words and it'd be the wrong way. And...
No, that is not true.
Okay.
Well, all right, no. So basically what the words say, you go to brimfield.org, Department Senior Center, and listed on your left. Well, so what I was going to do is actually show, when you go to the home and you go to the departments, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. I got to click on this. So when you go to the Senior Center, and I got Council on Aging, and if you go to this area right here, the July newsletter, that's where you get this. So there's an educational thing going through the website again. So if you go to the July, there's your newsletter. So we would encourage everybody to get the newsletter. It's out now, and a lot of good information on that. And I think that's all we had.
So I just checked, and I just want to do a little shout out. There was a town clerk's day on the state capitol.
Okay.
And I guess 150 plus town clerks were present.
Nice.
And yeah, and our clerk was one of them. And so there are complaints about different departments at different times of the year not being open and not doing this, and there are events that our town employees do, and unfortunately in this town we do usually have one employee per office.
Right.
So it is tough to keep the doors open all the time.
Right.
So today, if anybody tried to go to the town clerk, she was at
she was representing
state capitol,
representing Brimfield.
Yeah.
Western Mass.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So 151 clerks. There's 351 towns in Massachusetts, so that's less than half.
Yeah.
So that's it's. I do believe that it is good for our employees to be associated with these, with these organizations. Where
right.
My guess is that most of the clerks that were there were from the 128 belt towns that are well funded,
right.
Are in many instances lawyers or stuff like that our town clerk can lean on and
right.
And they're all
there's a support structure there that clearly they get a lot out of through the listserv, and I know the moderator. There's definitely resources
at least in the past
that you could ask other people that have as much or more knowledge usually, and have experience and can kind of say, well, this is the way I mean, we did it during COVID. We did that all the time. What are you doing with this? What are you doing with that? And we get some really good ideas, very creative ideas coming back and forth that everybody was just bouncing off each other. So it was quite good. And so, yeah, I think it's really good to powwow and kind of get out there and make sure that we kind of maintain those resources.
Yep. And now I'm going to do one last thing. There's one more comment that says, thank you, Mike Miller. And I do know that he's watching. And once again, did we do this show last week after the election? I think we did. And we did thank Mr. Miller then.
Yeah, I think we did.
He's watching now, so
all right.
So I just want to say one more thank you very much for all your service.
Yep.
Thank you. Building committee, select board,
absolutely.
Tantascwa school committee, and obviously the town moderator.
Right. absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see. I thought there was one other thing that I had, but I guess not. I can't think of what it is. Well, I guess that's it.
Your senior moment.
Yeah, I think, I had something and then I totally changed my mind. Good.
And the town clerk, the assistant town clerk was at the office, so the office wasn't even closed today.
See, there you go. Oh, that's what it was. Talking about closing. Did you notice the notification from the assessor's office today?
Yes.
So, there was some sort of a cyber breach. It was posted on social media that there was a cyber breach, and I'm assuming it's related to the one that was before. But I don't know that. Could it be something different, or you think it's?
I think it's
what
so.
do you think?
I believe it's the ransomware attack.
It's the same.
And I know that the CAMA database, CAMA is the something appraisal. I don't know what it stands for. It's the assessor's database
Okay.
of all parcels, and that's how they formulate the value of your house, and there's a whole bunch of math that goes into it.
Right.
But the CAMA database is on a special server, and my guess is that wasn't being monitored by Tantasco because it is such specialized server. And my understanding is...
But it's in our server room? Or is it in...
I don't know where it physically is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I won't hold you to that. That's
Yeah.
okay.
But Tantasco saved a lot of heartache for this town. Best move that this select board could have done was, stop,
make amends. And
stop irritating Tantasco and
beg them to come back.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, that's true. So, but are they back up? They're not back up right now, though. Are they? I thought they were going to be down for a little bit.
The assessors?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
Came
they're
out
going to be
there was a
down.
notice anyways that happened. So, that they were going to change. Anyhow, we'll see. But, anyhow, that was noticed on social media. I figured I'd just notice that. Make a mention of that. So, all right. I think that's it. Anything else?
That'll do it.
All right. Yeah. So that was actually more than I thought we were going to have today. There was a lot. It was good. I had some better feelings coming out of the meeting. I thought that there was some positive things that were done.
Good changes.
I think
have happened,
some
I
voices,
believe.
we're starting to see voices coming out, which is really good. People are talking, and it maybe takes a little experience to be able to do that and to say, you know what, I don't need to go with the flow. I have my own opinion. I thought, again, Mr. Berkovici, VC stepped up. I thought he did a good job, and I expect a lot from Mr. Vandal. Mr. Soto has been quite vocal, and I thought...
and that's 3.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully they'll... And with allowing a question, I think that's huge. So with that, I think we'll say...
Have a good night.
Yeah, we'll say goodbye to everybody. All right, have a good evening. Get some music on in here. All right, see y'all later.